11 a.m. on Saturday versus Kansas. This OU team is going to take on 5-2 are the Jayhawks, and we don't know who's going to be the quarterback. Might be Jason Bean, might be Jalen Daniels. We'll talk about them in a second, I guess. Here, I kind of think it doesn't really matter who plays OU. I think this is certainly a dangerous game. Both guys can beat you. It's not really a knock on Jalen Daniels, more of just the fact that I think Jason Bean is a guy that can take advantage of this OU defense, or really any defense he plays against. We've got the highlights running here for those who are watching on YouTube from last week's game, but let's dive a little bit more into Kansas and what the Jayhawks are going to bring to the field. Looks like it might not be the best weather in Lawrence. We'll see yet. Could be some rain in the forecast for this time of day. But let's talk about the Jayhawks offense here. What should OU be looking for?
Yeah, for this matchup on Saturday, 11 a.m. in Lawrence, Kansas, kind of feels like this is a common theme anytime Oklahoma goes up to the state of Kansas. Cold, windy, and rainy is the current forecast for OU's kickoff on Saturday. And, Adam, this is going to be just another week where Oklahoma goes up against a very efficient, very explosive offense in Lance Leipold's team up there at KU. Regardless of who's playing quarterback on Saturday, I know that there's been a lot of talk this week. Lance Leipold even talked about the fact that, Jalen Daniels, he is progressing. He might be a game time decision, have an opportunity to play. Me personally, and we talked about this in the group chat yesterday, I honestly think that Jason Bean probably scares me a little bit more. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a guy that's very comfortable in this offense. He's played, he's been the starting quarterback for the last 5 weeks. Jalen Daniels hasn't played football in over a month. And you're asking him to come back. Yes, it is a home game. It's going to be one of the biggest games in recent memory for the University of Kansas. But you're asking him to come back this week against the best defense in the Big 12, arguably a top 5 defense nationally. So that's a tall order to ask out of that kid. But this is an offense, Adam, on Saturday when OU takes the field. KU's coming off of a bye week, so you've had the extra week of preparation to be able to throw some things together. I guarantee you Lance Leipold and that Kansas coaching staff saw some of the things that Gus Malzahn was able to take advantage of on Saturday against OU, like the speed draw play. They were able to break some things outside. And, this game, Adam, for whatever reason, it always brings memorable moments for me. Caleb's heroic efforts when he took the ball away from Kennedy Brooks to get the first down. Samaje, broke the NCAA scoring rush record in the rain at home against KU. And then obviously everybody knows the crotch grab and the handshake that never was by Baker Mayfield and the KU captains on Saturday. But for me, Jason Bean is the guy. True dual threat quarterback, great speed. He leads the nation in explosive plays, both running and passing. And I think it's going to be a really, really good test for Oklahoma. It's strength on strength for me in this matchup. And if Oklahoma is going to have the ability to win this football game on Saturday, you've got to neutralize Kansas's offensive rushing attack. Jason Bean's a dual threat, like I said. He's explosive. He can take it to the house any given time. KU, Adam, actually has 2 running backs right now in Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw. Both of them are averaging over 6 yards a carry. And in that game against Oklahoma State 2 weeks ago, the last time we saw the Jayhawks on the field, even though they did lose that nail-biter game to the Pokes, offensively, they averaged over 10 yards per play. So, again, a tall task for Brent Venables and Ted Roof's defense on Saturday. But this is one that I know that this coaching staff and this defense is looking forward to.
Yeah, the makeup and construction of this Kansas team is very similar to UCF in that 2-headed backfield monster that they have there. I think there's probably more speed from what Kansas can bring to the table with Highshaw and Devin Neal. Yeah. So really it's going to be, hey, go out and do basically the same thing you did against UCF, but let's limit the big plays that happen there. And you got to count on your offense to have your back a little bit so that your defense isn't playing in such stressful situations late into the third quarter and the second half there. But you mentioned Jason Bean. We're expecting him to start. Lance Leipold kind of said, well, Jalen Daniels is improving, but he's doubtful. Who knows? There's probably lots of shenanigans and gamesmanship, I guess you would say here, in regards to, is he or isn't he going to play? I don't think it matters, though, because Jason Bean can hurt you. I know people look at him and say, yeah, he's the backup, but let's not forget what he's done to this OU defense the previous 2 years. And if you look at their stats, really, I think Jalen Daniels probably would have helped Kansas against Texas, but otherwise, he's been pretty good. Jason Bean has. I mean, his stats are fairly identical. Exact same passer rating as Jalen Daniels this year. Better rushing statistics than Jalen Daniels. Very similar yards.
And he's taking care of the football.
He is taking, very almost identical touchdown to interception ratio. The only real difference between them, statistically, is completion percentage. He's about probably 9% points lower than Jalen Daniels. And
Hmm.
Jalen Daniels has been playing, a little bit hurt throughout the season, the 3 games that he has played. So the ceiling is still higher with Daniels, but I think Bean can certainly be a real troublemaker for this OU defense. So, but overall, I think like just go out and do the same thing you did against
Hmm.
UCF, but clean up a few mistakes. And if your offense has your back, like you mentioned
Hmm.
earlier in the podcast with John Rice Plumlee, that would have put if the offense has your back, you're put in a much better position as a defense. And so,
Yeah.
I think we could see a little bit better, a little bit cleaner result here.
Well, and I think that the game plan for Oklahoma on Saturday defensively is going to be one, you got to set the edge. You've got to contain Jason Bean, keep him in the pocket because a lot of the damage that he does are on some of those forced rollouts where they're able to get him outside of the pocket. He does have the option to, tuck it and run, but also be able to find some of those wide receivers down the field. And I think that that's something Brent Venables is really gonna key on this week in practice in neutralizing that Kansas offense. And Adam, just kind of one more point here to really kind of let the viewers listening to this talk about the key to this game being Oklahoma neutralizing Kansas's rushing attack. In Kansas's games so far this season, keep in mind this is a 5-2 football team. They've got 2 losses to Oklahoma State and to Texas. You look at Devin Neal's rushing performances over these games. On games that they've won, he's gone for 120, 154, 91, 90, and 94. The 2 games that Kansas has lost, their leading rusher went for, it was, I believe here, 45 against Texas and 66 2 weeks ago against Oklahoma State. So that's the key to victory. That's the key to success for Oklahoma's defense on Saturday is stop the run. And that's something that's been Oklahoma's bread and butter. They're one of the best rushing defenses in the country. And this is going to be another big time task for that front seven that Brent Venables is going to trot out there on Saturday. And I think that this is, again, I talked about it, in the opening segment, Adam, when looking at this 31-29 win over UCF. Yes, Oklahoma for 70 of 75 plays played tremendous, outstanding football collectively, but it's those 5 plays that they had those busts in coverage. They lost containment. They weren't able to set the edge and give, credit to where credit's due. UCF's a top 10 offense in college football right now, but that's what gives me all the more confidence in the world about this football team going up to Lawrence on Saturday, because not only do they have the athletes to be able to slow down Kansas, but I think that they're gonna take it personal, some of the plays that they gave up and the performance that they put on tape a week ago. And I think that they go into Lawrence on Saturday with the mindset that they can go out there and make a statement and really limit this KU offensive attack.
If there's less than ideal weather situations in Lawrence, then that certainly favors Kansas because they are a rush first team. Flip over to the other side of the ball, Oklahoma. We're watching a few highlights, not a whole lot of rushes in the highlight reel for Oklahoma this past Saturday. But
or made kicks.
Or made kicks. And so that's going to certainly be a challenge for the Oklahoma offense. But defensively, Kansas is a team that still has some deficiencies. They have scored a few touchdowns defensively. That's helped them against in games against BYU, for example, but certainly still some deficiencies there. This is a bottom 10 defense in the entire country in red zone efficiency, giving up scores every single time so far that a team has entered the red zone. Now, Zach Schmidt's field goals were from a little bit further away, so I don't know if that may come into play, but I kind of feel like they might get a stop this Saturday because OU's going to be probably a little bit more aggressive on 4th down. It might be a rainy situation where OU's going to have trouble once they get into the red zone and have to run the ball, for example. So OU's got a big challenge here in front of them defensively, despite, I think, the statistics and the record of Kansas's defense not necessarily being the most stellar.
Yeah, well, Adam, I mean, we can dive into the numbers a little bit about this Kansas defense and, how good or how not good they've been, through the first 8 weeks of this football season. But for me, the bottom line, this Saturday has more to do about what Oklahoma does offensively and less about what KU can do defensively to limit Dylan Gabriel, that Oklahoma rushing attack, those receivers out on the perimeter making big plays. Kansas is actually ranked 11th in the Big 12 conference in defense, giving up over 27 points per game. You look at some of the elite offenses that they've faced so far through the first 8 weeks of the season. They gave up 39 to Oklahoma State. They gave up 40 to the University of Texas down in Austin. I think that this is an opportunity for Oklahoma on Saturday where you're going to see Dylan Gabriel, really. I think he's going to be able to pick the secondary apart if he wants to, but ultimately weather conditions might, kind of impact that as well. But I think that this is a weekend where you've got Gavin Sawchuk finding some rhythm. You've got Tawi Walker fresh coming off of not just a bye week, but another week where he didn't play. So I think that Oklahoma is going to make a concerted effort this week to use the running game to grind this game out, use the ground and pound, and then have some opportunities in the long passing game. Whether it is a Brendan Thompson, who from everything that we've heard, he's going to be healthy finally for this upcoming game this weekend. Nick Anderson, can't say enough things about him. All the kid does is make touchdown catches. But I think that this is a weekend. This is going to be a weekend where the only team that's going to be able to stop Oklahoma's offense is Oklahoma. And I think it's more to do about us going out and have the ability to execute on Saturday, run the football, and make some plays in the passing game downfield.
And kind of underrated, maybe McCade Metallier is a guy that comes back in this game and helps solidify that offensive line and what they're able to accomplish in the run game.
I still can't believe that.
Yeah, I know, because it seemed like he broke his leg against Texas, but he was fully suited up on Saturday against UCF. I think he got in for one of those field goal plays. I didn't see it personally, but he was walking around sidelines throughout the game. And hand up here, I was a hater of him throughout the entire offseason. I wanted someone to go in and take his job, but he's been excellent so far this year. So proving me wrong, which I love to see that. I love to be wrong on that one.
Would obviously love to see him on the field Saturday, but I think if possible, you hold him out for one more game this week, and then he makes his return for Bedlam in Stillwater next weekend.
Yeah. Tyler, let's do a score prediction for OU Kansas. How do you see this one playing out?
Oh, man. For me, in my opinion, I know that Oklahoma State's coming on. That they're playing a much better brand of football compared to when they trotted out on the field and lost to South Alabama at home by 25 plus. I think that this is Oklahoma's toughest remaining road test. Now, obviously, all the talk's going to be around, which quarterback's going to trot out there first for the Jayhawks. For me, it really doesn't matter. I think that they're going to be able to challenge Oklahoma defensively for both of these. This, big new kickoff is going to be there. The crew, Mark Ingram, Urban Meyer, they're all going to be there. But I think that this is going to be an opportunity where Oklahoma can bounce back in a way, and they can go out there and, really kind of assert themselves, both, dominating on both lines of the scrimmage. So with that being said, I fully expect Kansas to still put up some points like UCF did a week ago. So for that reason, I'm going to predict OU wins this game 42-31.
So covering, but just barely.
Covering, but just barely. I still think it's a 10-plus point victory, but I fully believe Kansas playing at home, coming off of a bye, I think that they're going to have some things schemed up to, give Oklahoma a little bit of fits on Saturday. I think that they're going to come out there and play this pretty competitive. I think this is going to be a 4-quarter game on Saturday. OU's going to be in a dogfight. But I trust Dylan Gabriel in a close game in the fourth quarter to be able to find a way to get this thing done.
The weather really does make me nervous because, we are a passing team right now. I'm not sold on the running game being fixed. I think Gavin Sawchuk still is the best running back. And if we give him the opportunity, I think he can prove that. But I don't trust Jeff Lebby, DeMarco Murray, and the game plan to allow that to happen. I think they're going to trust Marcus Major and Tawi Walker more than they should. And so I just don't quite see that happening yet. I need to see more to fully believe and buy into Gavin Sawchuk being the answer to this running game and not being spectacular, not being an All-American or anything, but just be consistent and be a threat there that's going to help open up a lot for Dylan Gabriel. So that combined with the weather really does make me nervous. Now, I do think
picking the upset?
I'm not picking the upset. I'm not even picking Kansas to cover here, but I do think that the red zone defense, this nature of this defense, again, statistically, this OU defense is not going to be the best in total yards, allowed or anything like that. But they are going to be great inside the 20-yard lines there. They're going to be great in terms of points allowed per game. They're I think, still top 15 in the nation. So I think OU is able to limit Kansas once they get down the field there, but I think OU is just going to have trouble getting some scores here with the weather, with the kicking game the way it is. I think they're going to be more aggressive for it on fourth down. So I've still got OU covering, though. 35-23 is my final score. And maybe this is a little bit too knee-jerk reaction-y from what we saw versus UCF. But hopefully, again, I'm wrong on this one as well. We'll see.
Here's what I'll say, Adam. If Oklahoma goes up to Lawrence and, unless they just get into a shootout where, it's 45-40, 52-45. But I think if they go up there and they play good, clean football. If you can win by double digits, to me, that's a good win on Saturday, going up to a team that is much, much improved. It's really
Yeah.
impressive what Lance Leipold has done with that program in such a short amount of time. I mean, here we are sitting on October 24th, and Kansas is sitting here right now at 5-2. They're one win away from a bowl game. Long gone are the days where people were picking the over under on whether they win 1.5 games or not. So one final stat before we move on, Adam. Oklahoma fans watching the game on TV, OU fans traveling to Lawrence going to be in attendance. I know that the end all be all, the common cliche answer for success on defense is getting off the field on third down. And this is going to be a big point of emphasis, especially for this OU defense on Saturday, because KU is ranked number 1. They are the best in the Big 12 in third down conversions, converting a little over 53%. That's basically every other third down that they face, they convert. That's going to be a big point of emphasis for Brent Venables' defense on Saturday.
Absolutely. Tyler, I want to ask you about something that we tweeted out last Friday, and we got almost 300 different responses on Twitter. If you're following on podcast, it's linked in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing it here on your screen. We threw out, hey, here's all the past logos for OU, the official logos. So not all these were on the helmets or on jerseys or anything like that, but the official athletics logos. And you can kind of see a couple of different variations here. I was actually really surprised that the 1979 to 2000, kind of known as the disco OU logo there, was the one that by far everyone said, that's my favorite logo. That's the one I'd like to see at midfield or on a helmet or something like that. I didn't grow up as an OU fan in the 90s. I was barely alive at that point, but I was really surprised to hear that. My favorite was definitely not the disco logo, but we got a ton of response there. Do you agree with Twitter on this one, or do you like a different logo?
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with Twitter on this one. It's funny, Adam. I sent the tweet that you posted. I sent it to a couple of my family members that, season ticket holders. They were at those games back in the late 70s, all the way, up through the late 90s, early 2000s. And by far and away, the common answer was yes, that retro 79 to 2000 interlocking OU. I've actually got the Red and West polo that features that 79 to 2000 logo. It's absolutely fantastic. Might have to break it out this weekend with Oklahoma going on the road, sporting the white polo. But yeah, it doesn't get any more iconic for me than the interlocking OU that's on the side of the helmet right now. But for a nice little throwback, you talk about the all-time great logo for the University of Oklahoma as it's changed 5 times, since 1951. That's 79 to 2001. It's just special. Looks great. It's clean. It's a little different. I like the 79 to 2001. Not saying I want to bring it back, but if I'm buying some gear, if I'm heading over to Red and West trying to stock up, they got a couple different items there that feature that 79 to 2000 logo. It's fantastic.
There it is right there for those watching on YouTube. I had to double check because Red and West, sponsor of the podcast, they got the disco logo right there. They got some of the other logos as well throughout the store. So make sure you check them out.
All.
Greatly appreciate Red and West, redandwest.com for any OU gear. It's going to make you look and stand out at the game days. I'll probably be wearing my retro Western Sooners polo here at home on Saturday. They got other teams on there too. They got Texas Tech, they got Oklahoma State, they got Iowa, they've got Virginia Tech. I think SMU's in there as well. So makes a great gift for your family members as well, even if they're not an OU fan. So we greatly appreciate them supporting the Mainline podcast here.